Thanks everybody for coming to this evening's webinar class. My name is Neil Kelly with Generations Embroidery Software, and we're going to be doing a presentation this evening. It's going to be myself and Bernie Griffith. It's going to be doing our presentation of the Generations Plus 64-bit software. I apologize for those of you that attended last night that we had to reschedule this. We had some technical audio difficulties with the meeting program, so it was beyond our control, so we got to reschedule it for tonight. So thanks everybody for joining us again. If you were with us last night, and for those that signed up new, glad to have you. So anyway, the quick overline of how it's going to go tonight. I'm going to just give you a little bit of a brief overview of what we're going to do here for about the next hour to hour and a half. And then Bernie will come on, and she's going to show us some new things about the software, some new products, give us a little bit of education on inside the actual digitizing program. And then at the end, I'll come back on, and we're going to talk about some of these cyber specials that we've been running all week, and some of the advantages to those packages. Tonight's title for our webinar class is the Generations Plus 64-bit edition features and the benefits of the bundled packages that we got running. We do have lots of new products, some new building blocks sets, limited edition scissor packages. We got some great bundles with our new platform. The new platform has been redesigned for Windows 8 computers and some of the Windows 7 computers, anything that's 64-bit, and if you've got a newer computer, this might be something that would be beneficial to you if you're trying to operate, our old software on a newer computer. So anyway, we're going to kind of explain what that's for and why you would, be advantageous of you to take advantage of the promotion packages. And we're going to go through some of the different, ways we have that you can order this software packages. We're going to be teaching, a mixture of different, modules that are inside the program, how they're, really easy to use, and we're going to be using like building blocks and some monogramming features, and we're showing lots of, neat things that, might give you some inspiration for the holiday season, gift giving, things that you might be working on this year. And let me look at my outline here real quick to make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh, we're also going to be talking about a new webinar series that we've put together for the months to come, and explaining what that's all about. We're really excited about that. And I believe I've covered everything as far as introduction. Oh, one more thing. Once I'm done speaking here, I will kind of mute myself, and everybody else in the meeting is also muted. So how we handle the questions is, because there's a pretty good number of people in this seminar, we can't have everybody just asking questions. So that you have a chat box, and if you have a question, just type it in that chat box, and it will pop up on my screen, and then I'll answer your questions back by typing them. If I see the same question pop up multiple times, then I can pause the presentation, and we can ask Bernie to address those questions if I see something that pops up multiple times. So that's kind of how it will go. And I hope everybody enjoys, learns some new stuff, and let's get started with the actual content. Thanks for everybody for coming tonight.
Let me go ahead and open up my program and kind of move my controls out of the way so I can get to everything I need to get to. Hey, what I'm going to show you are some of the features of the program, and I'll talk a little bit before I start about some of the features in the 64-bit upgrade for those of you who have not upgraded yet. Most of the improvements are on the back end or the platform of the program, so you're going to see, better stitch processing, better image processing, better pathing for your travel stitches on the automatic digitizing and on your manual punching, and improved manual punching tools. So we're going to go ahead and get started, since we have kind of a mix of people here, with the basics of the program. This is your main interface, and we're going to go ahead and insert an image and use the automation to quickly generate a design. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Create. and insert image. And I'm going to go and just kind of scroll down and pick, this image again, which those of you who saw the beginning of our webinar last night know that, this is where we started. And after yesterday, I think Neil and I and probably half of you really needed this glass of wine, right? I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. And this is a very clean image, very vectored. It's a WMF image. And you can see when I say generate, I have my design. And from there, I'm just going to kind of improve my design. You go ahead and hide my image. I can select any of the fills that are in the Generations program and apply it to these sections. So let's start with this section here. If I wanted to enhance this a little bit more, I could come in here and say, well, we could try the radial fill, we could try applique, we could try fluid contour, or we could try the arc fill. Each one of our fills is going to give you different settings. Like I'm going to select smooth edge for this because I want a nice crisp edge and I'm not going to outline. I might also want to, shorten my stitch length a little bit, depending on what I want to do, and I can preview what this is going to look like by clicking on the Apply button. This little dot allows me to control how this arcs. I'm going to go ahead and move that dot and generate. And you can see I can get different effects just by moving that dot around. So that's the basics on the automation. You can see it handled even these thin lines on the W very well. Everything looks pretty crisp and clean. And other than changing fill types or enhancing this or personalizing it, I have my design and I'm ready to go and send it to the machine. So let's go ahead and look at what else we can do. Some of the improvements on the image processing are the way it traces the image. It sees the images much better. And those of you who have the 32-bit that are operating on a 64-bit system, before I go on, you'll notice that my image and my thread didn't change any odd colors, right? That's one of the improvements, how the 64-bit handles the images. So let's go ahead and insert another design. And we're going to look at, what we can do with an image that's not quite perfect, like a JPEG image. JPEG images are generally muted, or I shouldn't say muted, they're kind of, the edges of the colors are kind of blended so that, your eye sees it better visually on the website. I'm going to go ahead and insert this. It's a JPEG, and it's telling me that it's scanned image. The improvement over the image processing allows me to lie to the program much more than I did in the past. And those of you who have been in some of my classes know that, I do lie to the program quite a bit and say simple artwork. But in this case, I have better results. So I'm going to go ahead and say, define my colors. Come in here and pick my colors. I picked the background, of course. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this green and this brown. And if you look at the little color chip down here, when I move around to the edges of this, you can see I get different shades of green. That's what happens in a JPEG image. But let's scroll and see if we need to find anything else. Everything else is looking pretty good. And by the way, if you do happen to select one of those different shades of green, you can always delete it. Just come over here and click one of these chips and press the delete key. For this looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and insert it. And now you can see it says simple artwork. We're going to see 3 colors. And I am going to resize this just a little bit because that's one very fat Christmas tree. I can always resize in the program here as well just by dragging. So let's go ahead and generate our stitches. You can see that the program's outlined this very, very well. It's nice and clean on the edges here, nice and clean on the colors on the inside, even though this was a JPEG image. So let's generate. And this is what we've done. So if you know any quilters, this would be just a perfect tree for them. I'm going to change this to a little more green just by scrolling through my color chips until I find, the green color that I want. I'm using a thread catalog here. And let's go ahead and go with this green. You can see I just click and I can change to any color I want. If I think that's too dark, I can come down here and pick a different green. I also have the choice of picking from any of these thread catalogs, and we've improved the thread catalogs. You can see we've got, tons of these catalogs in here. So I can pick any thread catalog, and these colors will match to that thread catalog. The other thing that many of you may or may not know is you can see each one of these little pieces is separate. And you can see these little rainbows here, that means it's a color change. And there's, no color changes, very little trims, because the routing and the travel stitches in this program have been improved greatly. Now, I do want to show you one neat little feature that I find kind of fun, since this is a quilty little tree. Let's go ahead and select these and use one of the features in the program to create outlines. So I'm going to go to Stitch, create outline from area edges. And you can see I have these choices. I can make, a run stitch, a double run stitch, or a triple stitch. So since this is a quilting type of design, I'm going to go ahead and say triple stitch. And I want to make this look like it's stitching around the inside. So I'm going to do -1. And what's going to happen is I'm going to put the outline inside of these pieces. So let's go ahead and say OK. And I'm just going to grab a color chip real quick and change those to strawberry. And there you go. I've got a neat little design. It's got a little more, patterns to it. And I can go in and I can change anything else, any of the fill types to, create a little more interest to this. I also can add lettering to this very quickly. And our lettering, so that you guys know if you don't use the program or you don't have the program yet, it's all TrueType font lettering. So anything that you've, put onto your computer, you can actually put into this program as TrueType font lettering. It does a very, very good job of recognizing the fonts, the outlines on the fonts, and that's been greatly improved as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the basic font for right now. And we're going to go ahead and just insert Merry Christmas. I'll make this just a little bit smaller. Let me go ahead and get rid of the image in the back. So there's my Merry Christmas. And I could take this and I could move this anywhere I want. I could go back in and edit, or I could have created an arc, around the tree if I wanted to. Or I could use any of the other tools. This, of course, is going to scale my spacing. You can see the spacing moving there. This is going to let me kind of, skew this, so I could actually put Merry Christmas like this around the tree. You go back and undo. And this is going to let me scale the letter height up and down. Okay, that's kind of the basics of this. Now let me show you something that our program does that is kind of unique to, our program in particular. I'm going to go ahead and I want to select the brown for right now. Well, I'll go ahead and do that in a second. Let me go ahead and insert lettering. And these are all of our text paths. So I could draw my line. I could make an, an arc like I mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead and select a line. And we'll make that just even a little bit smaller. And this is going to let me draw my line exactly where I want that lettering to be placed. And I just generate to place the stitches into the lettering. Okay, that's one of the examples of the text. We'll look at the text a little bit more as we go along. Let's go ahead and let's open up a new file. And I want to show you some of the features for the building blocks. Neil had mentioned building blocks previously. So I'm going to go ahead to View and open up my building block toolbar. And the reason that building blocks are so much fun is that you can do all kinds of things with these little pieces. You can make your own design and save it. You can, incorporate these building blocks into a design that you're working on, or you can just use the building blocks themselves as a design. Let me go over to our decorations. I'm going to go ahead and select one of these. If I just left click and hold and drag, I drag one of them into the work area. If I double click, I get the option to, place these. If I right click, then they flip. And I can place as many of these as I want in the program. And I'm just going to place a few of them in. Oh, I kind of wanted to not do that one that way. So let me flip that one back over. So, I can place these in the program and create a pattern. Let me show you what else I can do with this and one of our aligning tools. I just want to put a bunch of these in the program and create kind of a unique little frame. All right, so that should do it. So now I've got all of these in there, and I'm going to use the Super Align tool. The Super Align tool is something that's unique to our program. It allows me to place these on a line. It allows me to place them on an arc or an ellipse or a freehand shape. I can place them above, centered, or below the line. So I'm going to go ahead and go for the ellipse. And then I just drag and draw my circle. If I want an ellipse, of course, I would use my control key. So let's go ahead and put those on the circle. And I have very similar tools to what I have in the lettering. You can see I can scale that circle and put these in closer or further apart. So that's some of the things that you can do with the little pieces of the building blocks and that Super Align tool. You can use that Super Align tool also for other things in the program, like if you've made a little motif that you want to, duplicate and make a monogram frame with, you could do that as well. You go ahead and delete these, and let's talk about some of our new building blocks. The new building blocks, if you've been on our website, you know that this building block set was released for, as a free one for our Generations owners. But here are some of the new ones. There's Elegant Christmas, which, has large pieces that you could use, and then you can enhance with some of these smaller pieces. Like here's our border. You can see how I can kind of move these anywhere I want. So I could create a very unique design with these different pieces. Go ahead and select those and get rid of those. That's one of our new building blocks. That's called Elegant Christmas. One of the other ones is called Snow Much Fun. And it's just little, snowmen that you can kind of drag and drop and move around. Another one is called Winter Ice. And this is kind of fun because I can create very quick and elegant borders with this, either by, using that multiple place tool or by dragging and dropping them individually. And you can see why building blocks can be kind of fun here. So you can create a lot of different things with these little pieces. I could even combine, if I wanted to, a piece from any of the different building blocks. I'm just going to kind of grab one real quick. So the building blocks are quite fun. So those are two of them. Here's another one called Deca Motif. I'm just going to drag a couple of these onto the screen real quick. Those are a little bit bigger, and these can be resized. If I would like these to be a little bit smaller, because, they're building blocks in the program, I have the ability to resize them and regenerate the stitches. So I can resize them to any size I want, as long as it fits in my embroidery hoop, right? The other one we have is called Let's Go Crazy, and I'm going to go ahead and close this window and create a new one. Let's Go Crazy is a crazy quilt set. So you can make these little patterns one by one. You can scale these to any size you want, or you could do something like this. You could make a border, and then, of course, scale these to any size that you need to fit on a crazy quilt block or a border. They're kind of folksy and crazy quiltish with, a little bit of a hand stitch look. Another one is called Wine Please, which is kind of a fun little set because you have a mix of bottles and a mix of glasses. So you can make a cute little set, for a gift bag, or, if you have someone who enjoys wine. And Ooh La La Paris is kind of a fun little set if you like to go shopping especially. And of course, these are all sizable and scalable. You can, ungroup these and delete pieces or just use certain pieces from them. Another one we have is Decked Out. And I just want to show you these real quick, and then I'm going to show you the manual punching tools. And these are cute little kind of modern Christmas trees. And I probably have forgotten one of them, but I wanted to give you an idea of some of the new sets. We're going to continue to release these sets throughout the year. And, you know, they'll be kind of a mixed thing and seasonal thing. So let's go on and start looking at some of the manual punching tools. I'm going to go ahead and insert another image. And this kind of goes along with the improved image processing as well. You might as well stick with the winter theme, right? This image has a lot of colors. You know, it's very gradiated, and you'll see once I insert it. So I'm going to choose to manually punch this image, so I'm going to insert it as a template. Even though I'm inserting this as a template, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I have the opportunity to use some of the automation as well. Sorry, my mouse doesn't always behave in the webinars. Okay, so here's what I have, and this is why, you know, I said this is probably a better image for manual punching. You can see the different gradients in here, even in the white. Let's go ahead and zoom out. What I want to do is work smarter and not harder. So, you know, unless I really need to, you know, manually punch something for a specific kind of technique, a lot of times using the magic wand and selecting the areas here makes it a little bit quicker. You can see, you know, I need to adjust a little bit. Let me just slide this up a little. You can see now I've selected this whole area. Even though that's kind of gray and whitish, you know, it's managed to select that. I'm going to go ahead and say okay and keep, you know, selecting these pieces. And I just want to get one of these little snowflakes done. All right, so now I've got one of these done. You can see all the different colors that were in that. It's going to select by color. So I want to change all of these to one color. So I'm just going to left click on the first block, hold my shift key, left click on all of these blocks. And I'm going to select a color, and I'll just go ahead and go with this blue, or, well, it says green pearl, but it looks kind of blue on my screen. The next thing I want to do is I want to change this all to one fill type. So I'm going to select satin, and I'll give it a little bit of a satin fill and see how that looks. So now I've got, you know, my one snowflake done. I've got all of the colors selected because I have, you know, the color chip selected. I'm going to copy and paste. And then I'm going to come down here, and do you see this little icon with the two squares, the dark blue and the like turquoise color? That's my group icon. You can see as I mouse over, it also tells me if I press Control-G, I can group using keyboard commands. So now that's grouped, and I want to move this into place using one of the other tools in the program. So I'm going to left click a second time on that section that's grouped, and these are rotate arrows. These are skewing arrows, so I can actually kind of skew the shape a little bit. And this is a pivot point. So I'm going to move my mouse over the pivot point, press my left mouse button down, hold it, and drag this pivot point to the center. And I'm going to come up here and rotate that into place. And I can continue to do this process as often as I need to. Let me just rotate a little bit here and create my snowflakes, you know, the branches around the snowflake very, very quickly. So I'm not going to completely create the snowflake, but I wanted you to see how, you know, easy that is to do. You know, at this point I could select all of the blue, copy, paste, group, left click, and drag that pivot point down to here, and rotate these into place down here. And if I need to, you know, I can just simply ungroup and select these pieces. Let me undo that one, sorry. Select these pieces here separately to move them into place. From here to here. So, but you get the idea on how to, you know, do the pivot and the rotate point so that you can kind of quickly make the snowflakes in your design. Now let's look at some of the punching tools. I'm going to zoom in around this ribbon, And this ribbon is, obviously going to be, a nice satin stitch, unless we're very large. But this is very thin and, a little elegant. So we're going to use our satin or column tool. There are several ways to create satin stitch in the program, and I'm going to show you the 3 different ways. This is the basic tool. It's called, your satin input tool, where you punch side to side and you control your stitch direction based on how you place your points. I'm going to go ahead and click here and change the color so we have a little bit cheerier color, and I'm going to begin punching over in this section. To create the satin stitching, you're going to place, 1 click at the beginning, a left click generally, and you're going to slide over just slightly to place that second left click. If you want to curve, you would begin right click, and you see how I drag this line across? As I place this second point on the other side, I'm telling this what stitch direction these stitches need to go in. And if I right click, I'm going to create curved sections. If I make a mistake, I can press the backspace and remove those points. Because the program works on a Bezier curve system, you can see as I move around, see how that bends? Each section that I place points in is going to control the curve around this area. It makes inputting much, much, much faster. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and to place stitches in the design or the area I just made, I just press enter. You can see there's my nice satin stitch. Now, some people find inputting satin stitch that way a little bit more difficult. So we have a couple of other ways to do this. We have a tool that's called Satin Side by Side. And what Satin Side by Side does is allow you to pretty much trace the area rather than, go back and forth from one side to the other placing points. To use this tool, you would come down here and trace. You just place your left clicks for straight sections and right clicks when you want to curve. And you're just going to trace around the area similar to how you would create like a complex fill. But there's a little bit of a difference. When I come down here on the one side, I'm going to hit enter. One side's outlined. Now I'm going to come back to where I started and begin tracing that second section or the second side of it to define really where I want the satin stitching to be. When I come down here, I just go over and close that in and hit enter again. Now I'm going to tell this section how I want the stitches to lay, just like this section here. The only difference is I'm going to left click and drag my lines across, and sometimes this gives you a little bit more control than if you're putting those points in on a regular column stitch. When you're all done, just hit enter, and there you have your satin side by side. Now, remember I said I like to work smarter, not harder, and sometimes because the Generations program has a very unique feature, I can create a satin area very, very quickly using a tool that I'm probably more comfortable with, and that is our freehand area. Most of the programs on the market will not allow you to convert a complex fill, which is generally what's made with this create freehand area. It will, just stay as a complex fill. Ours allows you to take this and treat it like it's going to be a complex fill and trace around the outside. And you're probably more comfortable with this tool. This is a tool that most people use, or I shouldn't say most people, that you use more often. Our program automatically turns this into, a satin stitch based on the size. I can always come in here and change it to whatever I want. Most programs give you this. And even if I changed it to a satin stitch, I would not have the shape like we have with the other 2 pieces over here. When I change this to a satin, you'll see that the program automatically, forms it in the satin stitch along with the shape, which is much nicer and much faster if you want to create a satin stitch area. So let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit. And, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the inputting tools for Satin and a little bit about the freehand area tool. So I'm going to go ahead and close this design down. Let's go ahead and insert another design or another image. And we'll go ahead and we'll work with, I guess we'll go with this one this time. Yesterday we did the diamond. It's a simple artwork because it really is. It's a vector image or it's a WMF image and it's, you know, red and white. So I'm just going to go ahead and say OK. And let's generate. I want to show you some of the other tools. And this is, you know, kind of what we end up with. And I can quickly come in here and change this from Auto Judge to Satin. And you can see it handles that pretty well. I want to show you some of the tools, some of the editing tools. So let me zoom in around these corners. When I have like a satin stitch area like this, you know, a lot of times you see these corners, and this is called a cap corner. You'll see it on lettering as well. If I go to View Outline, that's just going to let me change the shape. If I want to change some of the satin stitching or the angles, I need to go to View Angle. So as I'm in View Angle, I can see, you know, these little pieces and these little lines. Those are my stitch direction guidelines. Don't get all panicked when you see something like this. It looks overwhelming until you get used to it. But this is really what is in every satin stitch pattern. I want to change this corner and make it a little more crisp. So I'm going to use one of the tools. And to use the tools, I can go up to Angle, and I can select from here. Or I can always just right-click on any of the shaded areas. And I want to edit a corner. So I'm going to select Edit Corner, zoom around this corner, and I'm going to say, you know, this is what the corner is right now. I want to do a nice kind of mitered corner here. And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And generate so you can see the changes. You can see just a quick little change there on what a difference that makes. And it's just kind of a quick little edit. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is something else that our lettering does. And I needed a little bit of a line, which I do have right here, to be able to create that. So let me go ahead and hide that image, go back into my lettering. And I'm going to type in the word hearts. And I want to insert the text. And there's times where I really want to shape the text perfectly around something. And in this case, I want to put my text right there. Now, I could use the arc and then try to rotate it, or I could use a feature that's unique to our program called Existing Outline. In Existing Outline, I have an offset. What the offset means is I can tell it to move so far away from the line that I've selected, or sit right on top of it, or sit actually even inside of this section. I'm going to go ahead and give this an offset of 5 so that you can see what the offset does. Once I say OK, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select where I want this outline, you know, where I want the lettering to sit. So I'm going to select from here to here. And then I have to say, this is a line where I want the lettering to sit. And as I do that, you can see my lettering fits all the way around there. And of course, I still have all of my editing tools. So it's kind of a fun little thing because I could actually insert the lettering in here as well. So let's go ahead and insert more lettering. And I want to go ahead and say Existing Outline again. And this time, you know, our offset's going to be, well, we'll go ahead and we'll do 2 and use a different line. I'm going to use from here to here and select that line. You can see it moved it 2 millimeters away from the edge of what, you know, that I had selected. So that's kind of something neat in our lettering. Let me go ahead and delete all of this and show you something else that you can do with our lettering. Besides just being true type fonts, we also have something called ArtFont. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. and use ArtFont. And ArtFont is kind of neat because I can automatically shape things and control how they're shaped. And if you go down here, you see we have some really neat things like this belt cycle, right? So let's start with something a little more basic like the wave. And there's my instant wave. Now I can straighten this up if I want to. Or, you know, I can twist it down even more, stretch it out or squish it up, and kind of really scrunch those words up if I want to. Okay, so that's kind of one. You know, just to give you an idea of what, you know, this does. I always have the opportunity to stretch this out as well, so I can even make it a little more interesting. But, you know, that's one of the features in ArtFont. The other feature in ArtFont is, let me just kind of go through some of these choices. You know, these are, you know, your standard kind of layouts. And then I did mention this belt cycle, and you can see we can go one way or the other. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what the belt cycle looks like. And I can control, you know, how this is, you know, shaped, if it's oval, if it's, you know, circular. I can control the, you know, orientation of it. Let me go ahead and squish this up a little bit. And even though, you know, I have this, you know, belt thing going on, you can see all these little diamonds here are going to let me kern or space my letters. So I could actually move this around and make sure they were closer together, each letter if I wanted to. And as I'm moving them, I need to regenerate so you can see them. So those are just a few things. Now, we have enveloping as well. And I'm going to use just plain lettering for the enveloping. So besides being able to shape my letters, I can use what's called enveloping or reshape. And here are my reshape options. I can use this for anything, any design, or any lettering. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can see here's a little nose, and I can kind of pull these around, and I can really twist the lettering around itself and make some unique shapes. Sorry about that, I forgot to hit enter. Haste makes waste, right? You go ahead and move these back into shape, and you can see I'm literally twisting this on top of each other. In this case, I'm going to kind of uncurl it a little bit and hit enter to fit the reshape, and then just go ahead and generate the stitches. Now, you can do all kinds of neat things with this. Like, let's just grab maybe, you know, one of the motifs very quickly. Okay, here's my motif. I can use reshape on anything. So let's go ahead and use reshape on the motif. And I'll just go ahead and hit enter so you can see what it automatically reshapes like. And then I just regenerate. So you can make all kinds of neat things from things that already exist, or you can create something and then reshape it. So those are some of the basics of the program. I'm hoping I've, you know, kind of answered some of your questions. And let's go back to maybe just one more image. We'll go ahead and select this one. I want to show you one of the fills. This is a very basic shape, but it's kind of a fun shape to play with because you can do so many different things with it. Okay, here's my shape. Now I'm going to resize that since I made it just a little bit too big maybe. Okay, so here's my shape, and I want to show you some of our fills. Let's go ahead and look at one of my favorite fills, which is the spiral fill. The spiral fill is really neat because, you know, it spirals around a shape. But what's unique about this fill is that I can also come in, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the density on this a little bit. And I'm going to add something to this just to make it a little more interesting. Let's go ahead and space these out a little bit. I can add a motif to this spiral so that I can come up with some very, very unique features or very, very unique looks. Let me zoom in so you can see what's going on. So I could actually take any shape and add these little motifs to it to enhance that a little bit on a spiral fill. So I think that's probably a lot of information for you guys to absorb for the night. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here and turn you guys back over to Neil now so he can explain about the